All right. I think I have it. All right. Can everybody see the screen and see each other? We're good. Okay. We will get through this on a Zoom. All right. So today you have the, I hope, pleasure, I don't know. I'm going to talk about interpersonal activities and hopefully not screw it up too bad, because I will be honest, I'm really not good at this. They used to drive me nuts because I did not know how to structure it for kids. And it just always was a disaster in my class. Luckily, I've grown and I've learned some things. So today we'll talk about the interpersonal activities. We'll do some looking ahead. We were talking before we started about flag, and flag is coming up. If you guys have needs and wants, I want to hear about that. And if you need a certificate that says you were here today, you can do that. Okay, so the first thing, do you guys have this screen sharing? Can you see the screen sharing thing? I hope not. The first thing that we want to talk about is why would we do interpersonal activities? I feel like sometimes some teachers can sort of get in this, hey, we got to read, and hey, they got to write, and hey, they got to conjugate. But if you think about a language, obviously we're there to communicate. Yes, you communicate in writing, but so much of a language is talking to other people. And if you look at those core practices from ACTFL, one of them right there in the middle is design oral interpersonal communication tasks, right? So we need to be doing these as part of our class. And I know some of you, I have talked about, I do the everyday IPA format. So every day we do like a little mini lesson, then we do an interpretive task, we do an interpersonal task, and then we do a presentational task. And that's relatively new for me. Like that's within the past 5 years. And having that structure has really helped me to provide better interpersonal activities, because I know Val does a lot of interpersonal communication. I was a teacher who did so much reading and writing that I think I probably drowned my kids for the first couple of years in books and reading passages. So that doesn't work on here. It's showing my Zoom. So I'm just going to go over a couple different activities that I use. I use a lot of these frequently, and then I did a little bit of internet sleuthing and found some that I thought might be really good. And I think, let's see, and is that Jason at Hampton, Jason, and Danny and Val and me? Most of us operate in our classes, sort of novice high, maybe novice mid, occasionally up to that intermediate level. And I know I'm on block schedule and I have level 1, 2, and 3. So it's really a hard push to get us much into the intermediate level. So a lot of the things that I'm going to talk about really focus on sort of that novice level stuff. So one thing that I do, and I do this probably 3 times a week, is I do a partner survey. So I give my kids questions because, you know, for novices, let's see if I can show this thing. So, you know, novices, we do want them creating with the language, but we also want them to have a lot of good examples of structures. So I give a lot of pre-packaged questions so they get the structure in their head, and then I give them time later on to sort of create their own questions. So what I'll do is, like on this one, I pulled this straight from the unit that I just finished. It's all about family. So I gave them the questions to ask, hey, how many brothers do you have? How many sisters? How many uncles? How many cats? How many dogs? Because that's the structure that we're working on. You have how many of this relationship? So I gave it to them, and they're repeating it for 1 partner, 2 partner, 3 partners, 4 partners, 5. So I'm making them say all 5 of these questions to 5 different people. And they have to listen for what their partners say and fill it in here, right? So they're getting information from each other and they're giving information. That's that interpersonal communication. And then what I love so much about everyday IPA is I can take this activity and the next activity, which is presentational, and they can either give me a flip grid that explains their family and their partner's family, or they can write me, my goodness, this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 paragraphs just based on those 5 sentences. So it sort of helps with some time saving stuff too. You don't have to recreate the wheel. You just have them summarize what they learned from their partners. All right, so that's the first thing. And this sort of goes in with the last thing, but I also do a lot of prepared questions, like I was telling you. And I, like on this activity, I'll just have them go around the room. You have 1 minute to talk to as many people as you can to ask these questions, or go talk to 5 people and practice these questions. Take however many minutes, talk to however many people. I just give them the questions and they have to go practice them with other people, and they have to get the information from other people. And maybe if you've got some higher level students, maybe they can elaborate and ask for details. But again, most of these are geared, I pulled examples from my level 1 classes. I don't know if you guys have ever done this 2 dice thing. Do you guys play games in your classes? Yeah, I'm not great at games, not gonna lie. Mostly because I feel like I have to give the instructions in English and then I've wasted my time and I'm struggling with games, I'm not gonna lie. But this is one that my kids have got down pretty well. I just give them a group, they get in a group, they roll the dice, the first, and I give them 2 different colors. So like one die is gonna be the tens position, and then the other die is gonna be a ones position. So this was from when we were talking about numbers, right? Like numbers are such a struggle for the kids to learn, at least in my experience. I don't know if you guys have magic buttons to teach them numbers. So they just roll the dice and it's very randomized, and whatever number shows up in the ones and the tens, they have to combine it and they say the number, roll the dice, do it again, roll the dice, do it again. It's very fast paced. It's very, they don't know what's going to come from it. And you can modify it to do a lot of different things. And I will use the 2 dice thing several times in a unit. You know, you can turn it into questions about your family. Is your mother this? Do you have this many dogs? There's just a lot of options. If you can come up with 2 different variables to create a sentence, you can use 2 dice. Has anybody ever used dice like that? I don't remember where I got that. I want to say I stole it from Meredith White. I feel like I steal a lot from Meredith. Thank you, Meredith. Speaking of Meredith, here's another one I stole from Meredith. We do can-do statements all the time, right? And before I started I just went to a really great presentation with Meredith probably 4 or 5 years ago, and it dawned on me, I know their can-do statements, and I put it on the board and it changes all the time, or you just have one can-do statement for the whole unit. And she was like, well, you can put all your unit can-do statements in this, it's called a interpersonal partner can-do statement, something, lots of words. I just call it the can-do statements. But so everything that I expect the students to learn. So this is week 1 of the unit, and it was pretty top heavy for this unit, right? Tell me how many people in your family, siblings, da, 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 and there's the dreaded numbers. I needed them to count. So what you do with these is I give my kids a paper copy of this, and they have to go up to somebody in their class and say, hey, I can do number 1. And they demonstrate it, and a partner will sign off here, and then they demonstrate it to another person and they sign off here, so that they're talking to 2 people to really solidify what they're doing. And then they come talk to me. And when I ask them, hey, how many people are in your family? And they can respond, they get a signature. And for every one of my signatures, they get a point. So week 1's activities were worth 13 points. Meanwhile, week 2's activities were really only worth 4 points. This is the most unbalanced one I've had. I normally have about like 8 and 8. This one was just so heavy because of the numbers. So this will take my kids probably 45 minutes, right? If not more. Sometimes it's a whole class period. Your job today is to show that you know all of the can-do statements from this unit. And this is a really good activity for sort of the end of what you're working on. So my units are divided into week 1, week 2, and then the 3rd week is a project and the assessment. So I do these at the end of each instructional week to sort of summarize what we've been doing, help me figure out spots that maybe we need to go back and check again. And it also gets them prepared for their quiz. So it's a great end of your module activity. I've seen people do it as a tracker, like as you're learning, and you can change the person 1, person 2 to almost like a range, like how well do you think you're doing it? Like Haley from last month, she has a wonderful can-do tracker, like self-assessment thing. I just didn't include it in here because it didn't strike me as interpersonal, but it's a great idea, different way to modify this. And I do not have a digital copy of this ready for y'all. If you want a copy, you can email it to me. I have a template. All you do is fill your stuff in. But as you can see, it's just a lot of columns. It's relatively easy to recreate. This is also the thing that when we're working as a department, we start with this document when we plan our units. We sit and have a discussion, because what we do in our department is what I'm doing in French is the same thing as what they're doing in Spanish. We like to have that commonality, so our students are getting a similar experience. We all do the everyday IPA. It's just in a different language. So when we sit down to plan a new unit together, we start here. So, what do we want our kids to be able to do at the end of this unit? And we build this out first, and then we go back and build our units. And we use the new units that came out. So we use everything based on that vocabulary, those structures, we sort of develop it, but this is really at the heart of every single unit. We want to know where our kids want to go, need to go at the end of the unit. Okay, so do you guys use these beautiful chat mats that Amy Leonard put out? Have you guys ever used these? Oh, they're fantastic. And I misspelled her name. It's Lenard. If you want to follow her, she set up an Instagram. It's called Anchors and Aids. And these chat mats are just a beautiful, beautiful graphics. This is an example of an identity one. So it gives the starter sentence and it will give you some like responses, possible responses, gives the kids questions, gives them models, questions and models, sentence starters. It's basically kind of like there's sentence starters with some of the options already filled in. And she's got a ton. She's got stuff for weekend. She's got stuff for past weekend, future weekend, holiday activities. Any kind of theme that you want, she's got them, and they're not very expensive. So, and they look beautiful. You can print them out. You can laminate them, have each of the kids have one. You can use them as stations. You can just display them on the board so kids can practice. But it starts giving them questions that they can ask each other and possible responses when they're asked. So it's kind of like a mini conversation kit on a sheet of paper. And so there's so many of them. They're in French and they're in Spanish. Val, I'm sure there's nothing in Russian, but I would wager she would be willing to talk to you and like you could help her out and whatever. But they're just great little graphics. They're easily digestible. They have a lot of great options so that kids can feel successful responding. And it's all right there. They're not stuck trying to remember things on their head. It's a really good scaffold.
You say she's in Facebook?
I know she's on Instagram.
On Instagram.
And all of her, and it's called Anchors and Aids, and all of her, everything she posts on Instagram is available on Teachers Pay Teachers. So you can also look her up on Teachers Pay Teachers. And I'm going to fix her spelling of her name because I caught that the other day and didn't even think about it. Leonard. Now I'm questioning if I spelled it right there too. But she's really big on Twitter. She is really big in, you can just literally Google Amy Leonard, Anchors and Aids, or chat mats. They're all called chat, like you're chatting, mat, like something you could put on your desk. You can even use them as part of your lesson, give it to the kids while you're teaching so that they have possible responses if you're doing interpersonal chatting during your lesson. There's a lot of different ways you can use these. They're just great resources. And I will, hopefully at the end we'll have time, maybe I can pull up her Teachers Pay Teachers. But I really think like I got a bundle of them. I think like there's 40 or 50 of them. And I think I got them for super cheap because she was running a sale at the beginning of the school year. But they're fantastic. So for another interpersonal activity, and I will be the first to admit, circumlocution is one of those things that I struggle to teach. It happens like as I'm teaching some stuff, like concrete stuff, like, oh, it's an apple. Is it red? Is it green? Those kinds of things. I have some amazing folks that I know, like one of the Spanish teachers I used to work with, Robin Patterson. She does amazing, like, welcome to Spanish. I'm going to teach you circumlocution from like the very first day. So I grabbed a picture of a website. So the World Language Classroom, I know you might have, they have the podcast, they have a website, but this came from one of their articles. So if you have your phone, you can scan it. If you're watching this on YouTube, you should be able to scan that QR code and it'll take you to their blog post about it. It gives you all the article, gives you some examples, but this is just an example that I pulled sort of to help it make it look a little bit more concrete to us as teachers, right? So it would be very easy for us to teach kids, is it a person? Is it an activity? Is it a sport? Is it an animal? To sort of get them talking about a thing that maybe they cannot quite identify in the language yet. And that could be a great fun game too. Like if you pull out a vocabulary card for banana, is it a fruit? Is it a vegetable? Is it short? Is it big? Is it red? Is it yellow? So you could do a lot of fun like guessing games. And the kids get into that a lot. The next one, I don't know if you guys do these partner strips. I did these a long time ago and then I stopped doing them. And then Lisa Shepherd mentioned them and I was like, oh, I forgot how great those are. So I also included the copy of the one that I'm showing you. And really all it is, it's 5 boxes times like 10. And then I take a picture. So this is for our upcoming unit and we're going to talk about social media. And so I grabbed a picture of what is that? TikTok. So TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter, because these are the 5 main social medias we're going to talk about. I put their pictures in the first row, and then I rearrange the order for the second row, rearrange the order for the third row, so that by the end I have 10 or 15 of these little rows in different orders. Then I hit print twice. So I'm making 2 copies of these. So what you've done is you've just made a set. Cut them out, I laminate mine, give them to the kids, and their job is to ask questions of each other to determine who their partner is. Like, first, do you have, let me turn this on. So like if Val and I both have this card, we'd be like, oh, my first one is TikTok. Is your first one TikTok? Yes. Oh, my second one is Facebook. Is your second one Facebook? Yes. So their goal is to find the person without looking, but by using words, who has the same partner strip. It's literally a strip of paper that you're looking for your partner for. That's where that really creative name comes from. And so really it's just 2 pages of scrambled up icons. You could put, I've done it with times, I've done it with social media stuff, I've done it with school supplies, fruits, vegetables, anything that you could stick an image of, or even type it out. There's so many different ways you can do this. And if you laminate them and cut them out, save them, you'll have them for year after year. So this has been one, and you can use them for a lot of different things too. I like using them for find your partner, and then they can use that to write about it afterwards, or they can use it to structure an interview. You can do a lot of different things. It's just a visual aid. All right, the next one, and I don't know about you guys, I have struggled with the concept of interpersonal writing. Do you guys have subscribed to interpersonal writing as a thing? I know texting is making me feel like it's a little bit more legitimate, but I've always thought if you're writing something, you have time to proofread it and you have time to correct it and you have time to change it. It's not as spontaneous as interpersonal speaking, but texting is making me feel a little bit like it's actually legitimate. So if you feel like interpersonal writing is legitimate, this is an activity. You could just create text boxes, right? And I've given you the code for to go to it, because this is also off teachers pay teachers, but you could basically have one kid start a conversation here, pass the paper, the second person has to reply and then ask another question, and then they reply, and back and forth, kind of like an actual conversation. Or you can cut them out and put them on a sheet, and then they pass the sheet back and forth, but it encourages them to read the thing and respond to the thing. Excuse me. I knew I was going to need my water, and I said, no, you'll be fine. You can make it an hour without coughing in the dust in the fall with your dog at your house, in your dusty house. Nope, I need my water. Okay, and this is super low prep too, and low, like, it's not super ingenious. I have my kids do a lot of note cards when I'm doing activities, like, hey, write 1 vocabulary word on that note card. And then you just put all the vocabulary in a pile. If you did groups, if you did partners, if you did the whole class, a student would just pull a card and they would have to create a question. So I came up with an example for this one. Let's say you're doing fruits and vegetables, because I know we all have to do a shopping and foods and vegetables one. Let's say I pulled an apple. Depending on the level, like a level 1 kid could just say, do you like apples? Maybe a little bit more advanced. Do you prefer red apples or green apples? Are you allergic to apples? And these are all structures that you could give them to help scaffold what they're doing, and they can just sort of modify for whatever vocabulary word they come up with. And as you get more advanced in their language learning, the kids could come up with different questions, right? It's really just, here's the vocab we're learning, make a question out of it at your level. And this is an oldie but goodie, I promise you. And I love the movement, because I feel like even now more, my kids just really like sitting. It is a struggle to get them to move, but then I've got about a quarter of them that can do nothing but move. So this is like a nice happy place. So I split my kids up into an even number, and if I have an odd number, I join a circle. You can go A, B, 1, 2, in, out, whatever you want to call them. Half the class goes and makes a circle facing out. The other half of the class goes and stands in front of one of the people in the circle, and they form like an outside circle. So this would be my first group. I would tell them, hey, line up shoulder to shoulder, and you need to face out of the circle, not into the circle. Then the second person, or the second group of folks, would make an outside circle, and I just tell them, go find a partner to stand in front of. And so you could give them a question, you could ask them to create a question depending on your level, ask and answer questions, and then one group can stay where they are. Like I always let my inside group stay where they are, and my outside group takes a step left or right. So they get a new partner. You could rotate your inside group, you could rotate all of them, but they're getting multiple partners to work with, multiple interactions, multiple chances to practice the questioning skills that you're working on. And it looks fun. You know, they're moving around, they're talking to each other, they're listening to you give them directions in the language. It's fun. Excuse me, y'all, I'm sorry. And I think this is almost one of the last ones that I have. And then I'm gonna open it up for y'all to share some of your favorites. This takes a little bit of time at the beginning of the year, but if you will take your rosters and put them in a chart kind of like this, you can copy that for each unit and just come up with a whole bunch of different questions, print it out for the kids, and they have to go around the room and they have to talk to every single person in the classroom. So if you've got 21 kids in a class, they're asking the same question to 20 kids in the class. They're gonna have that structure down after they've asked it 20 times, right? This is a whole class period, takes a lot of time, walking around, talking, talk, language, learning their partner's responses, recording them, all of those things. I haven't done one this year because honestly, I'm moving a little quick right now, but it's one of those ones I plan to revisit. And once you print your roster one time, you can just modify the questions. I think I keep them all in an Excel document and just like put questions at the top for the week, print it out, give it to the kids. Let me go back over here. Look, I called it thing. I forgot to change it. It's just an oldie but goodie called Quiz Trade. Each kid gets a card with a question, a vocabulary word, a something. They work with one partner. Like I like to do straight up translations like, hey, how do you say my name is? This is what I use a lot in the first unit of French 1. How do you say my name is? Oh, je m'appelle. Then the other partner asks the question on their card. How do you say today is? C'est aujourd'hui. Okay, cool. We both got it right. We're going to switch our cards now and go find a new partner. So you really only have to make one class set of questions, and the kids are constantly rotating, asking each other questions, changing, identifying ones that they don't know very well. It's a great activity. All right, I tried to mute that cough, so hopefully that didn't blow out your eardrums. And also infographic activities. These are so much more challenging, I think, than I realized for the kids, but they have to ask questions. Have you guys done infogaps? Do we know these things? All right, so an infogap is, so for this one, it is a list of 1, 2, 3, 4 people, their dinners or whatever it is that they want to eat, right? And so if I'm working with Danny, my card is only going to have half the information. Danny's card is going to have the other half of the information. So on my card, it would say, hey, I know Tony likes a pickle. I don't know what Sarah likes. But if I'm looking at Danny's, Danny doesn't know what Tony likes, but Danny knows what Sarah likes. So I'm going to have to figure out how to ask Danny, hey, does Tony want pickles? And then, hey, what does Sarah like? And Danny's going to have to be able to respond to me, oh, Sarah likes mayonnaise. Do you know what Chin likes? So I need all the information that I have all the information my partner needs, and my partner has all the information I need. I think I said that wrong. Sorry, my brain's a little flighty. But by the end, you should be able to ask and answer questions of your partners and fill in the whole thing. It's an info gap. Like there's a gap in the information, and I have to talk to somebody to fill that gap. And this one's a real simple one. You can do this probably in your language classes now. This is clearly a, what do you want on your hamburger thing? Put the ingredients that you're working on. You could even say, this is a class that I have. Here's what I need in the class. Here's what time it starts, those kinds of things. You can modify the heck out of them. And I just found this one online. There's a ton of info gaps. If you have textbooks, I think most of the textbook publishers include some of these infogap activities because they're really good, especially just for building vocabulary. Do you have a pickle? Do you have a pepper? Do you have lettuce? Do you have cheese? Those kinds of things. I feel like I need to stop. I'm going through everything because I'm so distracted. Do you guys have questions? Is there anything that is not making sense? Am I just saying things that I want to make sure I'm not like glossing over things you guys need some clarification on. Okay, and I pulled this one online.
Quickly,
From
you
online.
can.
Go ahead.
Teachers, if you want to call 4111, let me know if there are any still waiting on the bus. Thank you.
Somebody's got announcements going on.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's fine. Man, that's a really late bus. Man, you guys normally get out this late?
No, they're having like help with the language art classes.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. So this is an activity, and I've actually given you the QR code. Let me move the this thing. I don't know if that's even showing up there for you. Nope. Are you guys seeing the mute and stop video and all that stuff? Are you seeing that on, or is it just on my screen? Okay, as long as you can see the whole screen. Dr. Curtin is actually a pretty big name in foreign language textbook publishing. Like if you go through a college program where you have to learn your methods classes, she's probably authored it or co-authored it. And she's got a webinar that was dedicated all about interpersonal activities. And so I've given you the QR code if you want to watch the webinar. Oh, I see a chat question. Yeah, Jason said the low prep method of hallway, 2 lines with 1 rotating side. Yep, that's a great version of the inside outside prep, inside outside circles. Anyway, so if you want to watch the webinar, there's the QR code. But I pulled this, excuse me, from the webinar. And the way she explained it was, you give the picture of the house. This was people learning how to talk about a house. Each person has a house cutout or picture or something on their computer, and they have a teddy bear. And so partner A would put the teddy bear in a room, and partner B's job is to ask or try to figure out where the teddy bear is. And she was mentioning on this one how it's really good for novice learners because it can just be yes, no answers. So the partner could ask, is the teddy bear in the kitchen? Nope, or yes. Is the teddy bear in this room? No, or yes. But you could also scaffold it up for a little bit higher if you're doing prepositions. Is the teddy bear on the couch or under the couch? Is the teddy bear dancing or sleeping? You know, there's a lot of different ways you can do this, but the students manipulate where the teddy bear goes. And you can use it. This is an example for the house. You could use this in so many different ways. Somebody is shopping. Are they at the grocery store? Are they at the mall? There's just a lot of different ways you can do it. But the goal here is to get kids asking questions to get information. And walkabout bingo. I will admit I have not done this one, but it looks really intriguing. It's a bingo card. And your job is to walk around the room and try to ask these questions and find somebody who did them. So obviously you would give these in English. I'm sorry, in English. You would not give them in English. You give them in your language. So you could say, you know, you're asking someone, do you write poetry? And if they say no, move along, find somebody else. But if they say yes, they write poetry, you write their name on it. And your job is to try to get a bingo. So up and down, across, diagonal, whatever you want to do. You're getting kids to talk to each other and figure out who does these things and record it on a bingo board. It's a little bit more advanced than just, you know, do you have an apple? Do you have a pear? Kind of bingo. And if that description is not as clear as what you probably need, I've also given you a QR code that elaborates a little bit more. But I had never thought about using bingo as an interpersonal thing. It's always been an interpretive thing for me. Listen and check off what you have. So I like that little twist. Okay, so before we move on to the last thing, I am going to, the rest of our Starlight sort of housekeeping, I just want to open it up. What kind of great interpersonal things do you guys have? What kind of questions do you have? Share your hearts to your heart's delight with us. Jason already said he likes to do the 1 line rotates in the hallway and the other stays put. And that's a great modification for that inside outside circle. I did that a lot when I taught middle school. Are we all
I like to do a different kind of surveys, like what kind of job, for example, you like. We are constantly doing that, circling in the classroom and talking with 2-3 different people about something. This is I'm the big believer in the talking.
Yeah.
So that's my favorite things. And between them, even it's really small, even it's very primitive still. And when they come into the Russian 3 or Russian 4, I always see how they don't even look in a dictionary. They don't have maybe much big vocabulary, but because they were talking constantly among each other and know this group very well, so their vocabulary is quite strong. I mean, limited, yes, because
But they're
that's
confident.
unfortunately,
Yeah.
but when they're reading, they understand better. So I love interpersonal activities. They're constantly doing it, survey or talking, questioning.
I have a question. So like, especially in lower levels, do you guys run into students not staying in the language? That's always been the thing that has been so frustrating for me, because I'm not sure I know how to facilitate it really well so that they can stay in the language. So how do you guys tackle that?
No, they cannot stay. You need to watch them constantly, of course, because
And I think, yeah, the way that I have approached it is in my level 1 classes. I know that they're not going to do sustained discussions. That's why I give them those questions they have to answer. I know that they know how to answer them, so I can constantly reinforce en français, en français, en français. You have the skills for this. I'm not asking you to do a 30-minute, interview. I'm asking you to do things at your level. So I think I would say when I shifted to that, it helped sort of alleviate, because I would have all these crazy ideas for interpersonal activities and they would just get lost. You go to English.
I try to, and I'm in a larger department now, but
Right.
I'm trying to scaffold everything. And we always think about, okay, at next level, at next level, what are their expectations? And, even taking your AP certification courses, they're sustained speaking engagements. They're not extremely long, even at the AP level. I mean, let's be honest, even the gay certification exams, it's not like you have these massive 10-minute sustained speaking engagements.
Right.
I mean, even for a certification exam. So when I try to think through both the actual speaking and the AP level, because I'm trying, how do I prep my students to move on as they're getting ready? And I know only a handful goes on to the AP level, but even at that level, sustained speaking, interpersonal conversation may only be 2 minutes long.
Right.
So I'm thinking, well, if it's only 2 to 3 minutes long at the most, even at the AP level, for just a sustained continuing conversation, I just think sometimes we put too much pressure on ourselves.
Right. Right.
I'm okay. Look, if you held a 30-second to a 1-minute conversation at a lower level language class, you did good. You did good.
And I think that that's such a valid point. If you've got a pretty good vertical articulation of what you're doing from level 1 to 2 to 3, that's a great conversation to have as a department. Or if you're like me, a singleton, if I expect 2 minutes in level 3, what do I do in level 2? What do I do in level 1? And how do we go from unit 1 to unit 6 to build up to that? I think that's a really super great point. Thank you, Jason.
I just want to say, I was growing up in the Soviet Union, and we did have, right now in Ukraine and Russia, that's what they have from elementary school, foreign language. I think here is the big problem with our students, because they are start too late. They don't have this habit. I remember how our teachers know you just need to speak French. You just parler français. That's what we are. We were so scared of the teacher because she was constantly, and it was a habit for us until the end. You see here, no, they're too late to start for them, and they come in just to class. They just pick up, whatever we give it to them, and it's not a good habit.
Yeah, that's why I wish that we had more dual language immersion and a really good articulation from elementary to high school. I mean, there's room for a lot of great stuff. I think we just are not investing the right kind of money. And I don't know that we have enough teachers. When I talk, if you hear Patrick talk, it's a struggle to get dual language immersion teachers. And it's like, I know that this would be so great for our kids, not only linguistically, but it would help develop all these other skills that come with being biliterate. But yeah, I mean, it's a big difference culturally, Val, from here and lots of other places, I think, around the world.
Absolutely.
So y'all, those are really, I think, maybe like 15 interpersonal activities that I came up with. Wanted to share some that I actually do, some that I found that I want to do, which takes us to our next, we're going to be done right on time. Looking ahead, next month will be so much more entertaining because it won't be me. It'll be Joanna Arnold. If you remember her for last year, she talked to us about project-based learning, and she is in that really cool furlough charter school down in Americus. Is that right? No, Plains. She's in Plains, I think. Is it Plains? I think it's Plains. But she's going to talk to us about presentational activities, and she has such experience. She does elementary school, middle school, high school, French, English. I think she's done ESOL. So she's got a lot of great stuff. And the next big thing that I'm super excited about is, y'all, it's getting close to flag time. They opened up registration, which I was surprised. I thought it was going to open up a little later, but registration's open. I put the link there. So start talking to your department chairs, your whoever, your assistant principals, whoever is in charge of money. Because I can't stress enough how great flag is. We sit through all these professional developments all year that really are not as impactful for foreign language. But flag is one of those places where everything is by a foreign language teacher. Everything matters to our classrooms. Danny, you and Val both went to Skolt last year, right? I mean, you walk away from there. I walk away from there feeling like I'm not doing my job right, but I also walk away from there thinking, man, this is some really cool stuff I want to do. It's just such a good recharge for us professionally, and we only get it once a year. So if you need someone to advocate, if you need a letter, if you need someone to talk to your admin to be like, this is a really important thing for us, we can get you something. I really think it's important that we have this time together as foreign language teachers, and to have it in person. I like in person. I mean, I love virtual, but in person is just a whole different feel. I mean, I got to have breakfast with Val and Danny last year, and it was just like, oh, these people are real and they're not on my computer screen. It's great. Also, y'all, we got to be our own mouthpieces. Start thinking about the people you work with. We have flag awards for so many things. There's the Teacher of the Year, Teacher of Promise. That's a new teacher. We have leadership awards. There's people that are support awards. So if you've got an administrator who's just fantastic and has done so much for your department, give them an award, bring them to flag, do all that nomination stuff, help make us visible in your school. I'm actually going to have 2 sessions. One is with my mentor. I'm the mentor. He's my mentee. We're going to talk about how to develop those relationships, how to care for your mentee, how to ask for help from your mentor. But I'm also doing one that I'm hoping that you guys will come to. It's all about teaching language in a rural setting. So it's going to be a little bit of like, hey, here's our challenges. Hey, here's what we do to go about them, but also like getting to know each other. So it'll almost be like a Starlight session in person. It's going to be a little bit of me talking, a lot of conversation, very similar to one of these. So if you haven't gotten flag in the works, start getting it in the works. Also, like I want to ask every single time, do you guys have any volunteers? Do you want to host a session? Do you want to get ready for flag and start thinking about what you want to present? Do you have ideas? Do you have a need? Is there something that you're like, I'm really struggling with this? How can you help? How can we use this community to help each other? If you guys have any of that, anything off the top of your head? If not, shoot me an email. And the last thing, if you need to prove to your bosses or whomever that you spent 40 minutes doing professional development, we'll call it an hour though. Go ahead and scan, and it will send you an automatic email with your certificate. And this is going to work for the online people as well. As long as we haven't started a new session, they get updated with each session. So this one will be good until the session with Joanna Arnold, which is in November. Yay, November. Oh, it's coming up. Hold on, 17th. All right, we got about a month. All right, you guys, I am going to stop the recording as soon as I can figure out how to do this, because I really am terrible at Zoom. I'm so bad at Zoom. I hope I've been recording it to begin.